Today we have a very delicious topic. We have Dixon here from Burpple, CEO of Burpple. You clearly have lots of fans.
Bias suffer.
So thank you so much. We shall start. It's a bit of a fireside chat without the fire, obviously, in Singapore, and then followed by a Q&A afterwards. And then afterwards, I think Dixon will probably hang out and hang around. If you have some burning personal questions that you're too shy to ask the rest of the group. But usually in Startup Grind, all the questions are open and available, and people have benefited a lot from the questions. So do feel free to ask the questions, and I think Dixon will be very happy to answer.
Yeah? Definitely.
All right. So for those of us who are maybe not so familiar with Burpple, Dixon, could you give us a brief introduction of the company and your platform?
Yeah, for sure.
I think firstly, no battery.
Yeah, I think firstly, really thank you, Ginny and of course Patrick, really meeting us late last year. I think we have a chat and what we're going to talk about, and very happy to share. I think I just want to help you put things in perspective tonight, and maybe inspire some action as well. That entrepreneurs are not alone. We have a community like this to actually share and to learn. So firstly, I think your question is, what's Burpple? So Burpple's like your foodie friend. That foodie friend who always recommend you to places. Burpple wants to be that. Whether you are actually planning for a first date, whether you are actually looking for a place to bring your families to, Burpple helps you to find the best places to eat. We are currently available in Singapore and Malaysia, in the KL and Selangor region. Last year, we were about 5.5 million people using it. And to date, we have about 3 million reviews that is shared entirely by our community of real customers, real users.
So it's interesting how you said about what the product is, etc. But how did you come up with a name like Burpple? I think maybe a bit of the story behind that, and maybe if you could tell us a bit how you come up with the idea of Burpple.
I was spending actually a year in Silicon Valley. So I was part of the NUS Overseas College. So it's the same program that, for example, Carousel founders were from on 99 Co. I think it's a great program where they send students overseas for 1 year. That's where you work in startups and also take classes in Stanford University. So I was spending 1 year there and working at this Israeli startup. It's a B2B SaaS company. So one day I was actually looking for a place to eat. I want my kopi siu thai and my roti prata again. All I can find is actually a Hawaiian Chinese restaurant that is 50 dishes wide. I was thinking to myself, hey, even though it's rated 4-star, I couldn't find my Singaporean restaurant. And when in the restaurant, I don't know what exactly to order. So that became the burning question, the burning problem that I always had, where to go, and when I'm in restaurant, what to order. But of course, that is in 2010. I had to come back to actually finish school. I started Burpple right from the bat with zero experience. I think my parents wasn't too happy about that, definitely. But of course, I think it takes a lot of guts, not just from me, but my team. A team of 2 other co-founders. So Daniel, who is our CTO, and also Elijah, who was one of our co-founders. That's how we started, back in Silicon Valley, coming back to Singapore, realized the problem is actually still here, it exists here. And how can we start the company up right from scratch? Yeah.
Well, definitely. Yeah, I'm going to have to borrow this. Try to look elegant to that. So. Well, definitely as a Singaporean who's lived overseas for 25 years, trying to find, well, first of all, a Chinese restaurant or not even a Singapore restaurant, I can understand how hard that could be. But tell us, what are some of the lessons that you learned when you were working in Silicon Valley, and the problems that you faced? How did that lead to the product? Yeah.
So I think Silicon Valley, back in 2010, I was living in Menlo Park. Rent was still 1,500. Now it's like 4 or 5. It's crazy, right? Because Facebook is just behind. But what intrigued me is really when you walk down University Avenue, that's where all the Stanford students here, we have one there, it's just that every single person has an idea, is working on a paper idea, in the cafes, they want to change the world, right? They want to solve a problem, so that actually really inspired me that, hey, these guys, every one of us have problems. It's whether we want to take the step to solve it and solve it in our own meaningful way. That is how we started Burpple. It's really these two problems that I really want to solve. And of course, it's a big journey, it's a long journey, right? We launched in May 2012, and it's been 5 years already. And of course, there's so much learnings. When we first launched the Burpple app, it's really very different. We were thinking like, who is going to share reviews on a platform that nobody is on? So that's where I think we try to be innovative in our solution, and we focus on the idea of journaling. That this product works for you first before you build a community around it. And that is something that I learned in Silicon Valley as well. That hey, there's many ways to solve problems. So what is the solution? And it's definitely such a ride. Our mission today is actually helping people to enjoy their lives by finding the perfect places to eat. The mission of enjoyment is what me and my team, really focus on, think about every single day.
So maybe let's point to that journaling. So how did you go about getting people to journal about the food? It's hard enough to get myself journaling at night about my day or something. How did you get your first 10 people?
I think startups that was in May 2012. So startups was really fresh, something very new to Singapore. We are probably one of the first 2 consumer tech startups that launched then. I think it got quite a bit of PR coverage then. It was on Straits Times, on Today, and being in a very small community definitely helps. Especially in Singapore, words gets out very fast because you meet your friends every single week. That's where you share. And most of our users coming to Burpple today is very organic. We haven't spent at all in terms of paid marketing. If you do a Google search, Burpple doesn't have an ad there. It's all organic, word of mouth. Our SEO, thankfully, is very strong, and so that is one of our strongest acquisition channels. But in terms of answering your question, how do we get our first 10 users? Definitely through the press, through your friends and family.
So you started off with nobody. You had a platform, and then how did you get that? That video that might have seen before, that the shirtless guy in the park, right? That guy that dances shirtless in a park on a spring day. And everyone in the park is looking at them. And then the second shirtless guy comes on, and then the third and the fourth. So how did that snowball?
I'll tell you how we got our 1,000 users. So we were running this copy campaign. How many have you seen this copy poster that tell you what is kopi siu tai, what is kopi o, what is, That was actually our guerrilla marketing program where we created this infographic. Especially for travelers, it was very helpful. Like, how do I order? And it's like the different cappuccino, espresso. What are the different coffees about in Singapore? So we did a local version of that. What makes up a kopi siu tai? What makes up a kopi si? That infographic actually became so viral. I think it got 1 million views then, and we put in a sign up form there. That was where we got our first, I think, 2,500 users that got us going. And this was something that, we are really proud of. And
no battery. I'll be back.
For now.
Still works?
No, it just doesn't show.
Nope.
It doesn't like.
Oh.
Okay, yeah. So that was how we got our 2,500 users. So when we launched, we actually did it before our launch. So when we launched, we actually pushed them to, hey, download the app, try it out. And because of the journaling app is really quite niche, at the same time, user activity was really high. So people were sharing like 60 reviews per user, which was actually at the level of Instagram, in the early days. But of course, we are talking about very niche audience. We're not talking about 1.5 billion people doing it every single day. So that was our way in getting the first 100,000, 200,000 reviews, through our app.
Oh, that's definitely really useful because I think that, this whole coffee thing in Singapore is really hard even for locals to understand.
Yeah.
Because you have a mix of Malay and Hokkien and all kinds of languages. In particular now if we talk about the web and mobile part, right, in terms of social media, which is already currently a really crowded and saturated space. So how did you then find that point of differentiation between not only your product but the different kind of media and other platforms to succeed, right, to carry on?
I think food discovery didn't just invent it like 15 years ago by Yelp. It's really in the 1900s where Michelin guide, right? They have been recommending people to great places to eat. Word of mouth has lasted since, right, humankind has started. So I think food discovery is nothing new, but it's a human need where if you look at the shopping centers today, what you see is actually all restaurants. Retail is going down because everything is shifting online, but food, I think it's really difficult to shift to online entirely. People are looking for places to actually enjoy themselves. For me, I think the dining table is the most fascinating platform in the world. Billions of people actually use it every single day. To actually heal, to laugh, to love. I think the dining table will never be replaced. But in terms of differentiation doesn't just come in the product, I feel. It's differentiation in strategy as well, in what you focus on. So for Burpple, we focus a lot on the community. So some of my team here is from the community team, and what they do is actually how to, inspire people to start sharing not just reviews for themselves, but to actually help other people to enjoy their lives. Hey, these are 10 places that you really need to go. And we have this community program called the Tastemakers, that they are actually our first users. They are users first, and then they go up the rank. But ultimately, we award them as a tastemaker because they are not just take great photos, but they write very well. They go to many different places to eat. They have a heart of sharing. So that is how we kind of like focus on the community. I think that is a big part of our differentiation. And the other part will be, if you look at Burpple, we are very dish-centric, meaning that the reviews focus a lot on the dishes itself. Because of this data, I think we are able to solve, with the new Burpple, 3 main questions. Firstly, where to go. Secondly, what to eat. And lastly, sure or not. To validate with a community of real customers. So yeah, I think that has been a focus, and I think it's been working very well.
Talk to us about that transformation, because you said when you first started out in 2012, you looked at blogging, and then now journaling for myself, and then how did you make that change together with all your users that this is the new strategies, not just food for self, but I'm incorporating more people and community. How did that come about, and how did you bring everyone along?
I think we learned a lot from our users. So honestly, we didn't know who was going to share. But along the journey, I think we came to know a lot of them personally. So for example, we have Singwei, who's a university grad, who's always looking for the latest newly opened place to support and to share with the entire community. We also learned a lot from Veronica, who's another tastemaker who, always talking to different chefs. And these are the stories that we learn from, and ultimately, how can we build it in the product? So back to your question is,
how did you move from blogging for
Right.
self to include everyone else? Because this is a big change. It's a strategy. It's very good in terms of strategy. You incorporate a lot more people, and you have that network effect. But how did you do that? Because that's this is journaling. Now it's journaling for everybody else. Journal.
So it's definitely a big change. And why I share is that we're learning a lot of the users, and they tell us that, hey, what if this journal, someone can use it as well? They're always telling us, I'm sharing this list of 10 top laksa, top prata, top Japanese places to eat. There is an innate nature innate passion for sharers to share with the community. So that's where we first listen to them, and going back to our original problems that we want to solve is finding where to go and what to order. So back in 2014, early 2014, that's where we finally switched on the discovery mode after we hit a critical mass of, I think about 500,000 reviews. And because review platforms really need density. There's no use when you are in a city with just 10 reviews telling you to go to these 10 places, right? So that's where we launched Discovery, not just on the app itself, but also we opened up our web platform. And that was where the growth really started. It's very interesting because we're a mobile-first company, but then we went back to web to actually get users coming into the app again. So I think there's a full trend of from app to web, and now they say there's no need for an app. But yeah, that actually opened up the floodgates. I think in 2014 we have about 2 million people using it, and then in 15 we're about 4, and last year we're about 5.5. I think we're hitting the cap. So we need to actually enter in new markets as well. That's one of our considerations.
Perhaps if we can switch gears a bit, and talk a little bit about the team. I mean, when you first started, there were 3 of you. This is quite typical for many of the startups. In a very nascent stage, it's a few guys with the idea and a pair of hands, and we start the business. So how did that go from 3 to, I think you are about 30 today?
30.
Yeah, if you can, and still you say, I want to manage my team in a lean way. Perhaps you can talk a bit about the team and how that growth has happened.
I think 30 is a lot. So
the government won't think so.
Well, I think firstly, we were always about 7 to 8 people for the first 3 years. We only tripled in size last year when we closed our Series A round, and that's purely to speed things up. We want to build our engineering capabilities. Now we have the data. Can we actually analyze and make sure that we have a data science team as well, to actually feed the best recommendations to our users. So, the first year was just 5 of us. Me, my 2 co-founders, Elisha and Daniel. We have Jane as well, who is now our VP of content. And we have Akira, who is our VP engineering today. So we were 5 people for most of the time, for the first 3 years, for the first 2 years. And then we have, we grew to about 8 people. And then only in 2015, we tripled in size. That's been our trajectory so far.
I'd like to kind of speak a little bit, I guess, the question that I think people see that you've been going from strength to strength in the past 5 years, especially since 2015. But I'd like to talk a little bit maybe of the hard things. Things don't always go well in a startup. It doesn't, the 5 people that worked very hard for the first 2 years, that was hard as well. And maybe here, if you could tell us about the time when things were hard at Burpple. For example, what happened, when Elisha, for example, made the break with Burpple? What was that period like? And how did you sustain the business? the culture and the team that was working together to where it is today?
I think it's definitely not easy. So I'll give you some context. Elijah left the company about 3 years ago. So if any one of you experience the same thing, I think, this is a community to share. So I think firstly, when a founder leaves, he's my friend, he's still my friend, definitely. We go to the same church, and so I think when someone leaves, they don't just leave suddenly, right? I think we planned for it. I think there was a period that people can sense it already. But the reality is, I can speak for the team, that it's not easy. When you're having a co-founder leave you, the main questions are, okay, where is Burpple going? What is the future? I think that those are very real questions. I can address that as much, but I don't think it's my mic or my words that actually convince them. But for us, it's really the performance of the product that gave them strength, gave them confidence still, that, hey, even though this boat is moving, one of them alighted, but the boat is continuing to move, one out of 8 people, that is the exception, not the norm, So the boat continued to move. I think a lot of confidence came from the product that is beginning to grow as well. So for example, the first 2 years when I shared, journaling is a very niche market. There's just so many people journaling, right? We have, I think, like 100,000 people use the app, and then that's it. But that itself actually generated so many more reviews. Like I said, on average, 60 reviews per sharer. And that created the content to actually now open up the discovery to get the first million users in, 2 million users in. And I think the performance of the product actually gave them a lot of confidence. But of course, I think when we grew the team, we made sure that we hired very carefully from the start. They are actually people that are passionate about food. It's not just passionate about Burpple, but food in general. They have to have the interest. So our early employees are all big foodies as well. I think that is what kept them going. Yeah.
Sounds like a good place to work and eat.
Definitely.
Yeah. So, well, we're the topic of team and talent, and you're talking about hiring. This is the other question I think that all startups have is, how do I find my CTO? How do I find my co-founder? And then once I found that co-founder, how do I hire the team? So how do you, if you can bring us back, perhaps when you first started and even today as an entrepreneur, managing and attracting talent to Burpple? I guess being a foodie is a must at Burpple, and then the rest?
No, actually it's not a must. So for example, I'll give an example. Some of our engineering guys are here today. I don't think they are big foodies, but they have
they're all nodding like I have become a foodie.
They have a very big interest in solving that problem. So we want to hire, we want people to join our team because it's not just about the company, the branding, it's whether you believe in the mission, that you want to help people enjoy their lives. And this is how we hire. We focused on these things. But your question?
Yeah, so how is it, hiring, managing, and attracting people?
Right. I think firstly is the culture. I just want to share a bit about our culture. I think 3 words that represents it very well is care, the care you show, and secondly is actually the sorry, I missed my head. Setting the right expectations, exceeding the expectations is very important, and lastly, showing appreciation. So that has been part of our culture from not on day one, but we have a very genuine culture of just showing care. First, I'll give you an example. Like, why do you enjoy your home cooked meal so much? It's because your parents care for you. They know exactly what you like. Your expectation exceeded. And lastly, you thank them very much. So I think with this same culture, we try to build it from the ground up. I am really inspired by my co-founders, Daniel. He's not here today. He's our CTO. I think he spends so much time talking to each engineer, doing monthly one-on-ones, really caring not just on the work, but also their career progression. Like what do they care about? What do they want to grow in? And of course, also their families and their lives. We genuinely want to be interested in their lives. So that is the culture of the company. If you see our branding, if you use the app before, I think we are always honest, trying to be authentic as well. That's what some of the values that we drive through very well. Yeah.
So when bring it down, when you think about startup grant, I want to bring it down to some tangible skills that we can have, especially for talent and hiring. So when how do you hire maybe? Because you could say, my culture is caring, we set the right expectations and we appreciate people, but how do you get this across during an so-called interview when you're meeting somebody? And how has that changed when you first hired in 2012 to today? Does it take maybe explain how that process works for you?
I think the process changed a lot as well. I think some of you in the early stage company, like whoever applies, you want to take the interview and hire them, right? So we were like this in the start as well, where there wasn't a thorough process. But I think recently we've changed quite a bit. I think one thing for early stage startup is you can always work with really talented people, and you can always start off with consulting. Getting on a consulting basis to actually advise a startup. So we thought that was a very good way of knowing how they work, understanding what they need as well. So we actually converted quite a number of them into full-time. After then feeding them good food, and knowing them. Because at the end, interview is just a 1-hour session. You can't really know a person. They will tell you the best things or put up a front, right? It's really very easy to do that. I would highly encourage, if anything, pay them for an internship. Pay them for a month or two. That's how you begin to understand a person, how they work. And you can only know a person by working with them. You can't know a person by listening to them, by just seeing what the CV is. It will give you a great indication, definitely, but nothing beats working with them one-on-one, face-to-face.
So I would say that would you say that your hiring process is quite good and that you have high, rates that stay with you? Have you had any mistakes, hiring mistakes, etc., that caused difficulty?
I mean, definitely our churn is actually quite low. Across the 5 years, I think we have about 4 people leaving through the entire course of 5 years. I think that, like for example, Jane has been with us since 4 years ago. A lot of the employees are really been with us for years. So I think not just the hiring process, but what do they do every single day? Do they enjoy and love what they're doing? The culture of authenticity, it really helps with a person staying with the company and be on board the mission. Yeah. So in terms of mistakes, right? You're asking? No. I think so far so good. Of course there are mistakes, but the process actually changed quite a bit. For example, now our engineering hiring we have 3 steps, right? So first is actually making a team, and in each interview you actually meet 3 different people. The second interview is actually where there's a technical exercise, technical test. And lastly is a meeting with me and my co-founder to actually look through how we feel the cultural fit, how the culture fit is. And I think that is very successful and been multiplying into the other teams as well.
Thank you for that. I'd like to now ask a question on fundraising.
Sure.
Because again, for startups at different stages, we're always supposed to be fundraising and always thinking about that. You initially raised a seed round of 500,000.
Yep, that's right.
And this is even before you launched the product.
Yep.
And then you had a bridge round or bridge loan before raising Series A of 6 million in 2015. Could you share with us, what transpired between those two stages that allowed you to have a Series A round of that sum? And was it something that you think you did as a company, or was it an external force that made the timing right? Maybe both.
We, like mentioned, we closed our first seed round of $500,000 even before we launched the product. And this is quite, in Singapore's context, it's quite rare, but I think in Silicon Valley, I think it's quite normal, So we were then in May 2012. I think we signed the term sheet in March or April, just before we launched, and then we announced it in June. So I think a lot, especially in this region, relationship really counts. I know my seed investor, James Chan, who's currently Silicon Straits or Neoteny Labs. Is formerly named as Neoteny Labs, which was led by Joy Ito. So we actually know him even 1 year before we closed that funding round with him. So we actually pitched Burpple to him as a paper idea. I showed him these slides, 10 slides with PowerPoint mock-ups, and the last page is investor, Neoteny Labs. I even put his name inside without him giving me the term sheet in our first meeting. So that was the extent that we went to actually pitch to him. He was probably, we didn't pitch to a lot of people for the first round, to be honest. I think we met 3 or 4 people, that's it. But thankfully we got him as a lead investor. He was very interested in food tech as well, how technology can solve this human problem. And then of course one of the co-investors is James Tan. So we have three James in our investor list. So second one is James Tan, who is founder of World War Tuan. Currently leading Quest VC. He's the guy you need to meet if you're looking for funding, because he has a Midas touch, I would think. He invested in a lot of the good companies today coming out of Singapore, if not all of them. So that was the first round. So I think if you do the math, 500,000 is not supposed to last us 3 years. It's supposed to last us 1.5 years. So how did we survive the 1.5 years? I think that's going back to the question of struggle. I think first thing is the team. There was 1 year that the co-founders really went off salary. I've shared this quite publicly, even in the media. And not just the co-founders, but also the team, took a pay cut as well. But they stuck with the team. And between 2014, we were trying out some monetization that got us a good runway as well. So that led to December 2014, where we closed a bridge round with SPH Media Fund and also NUS Enterprise. So that added up to about $1 million. And then, fast forward, because of the growth, I'll talk about one thing that's most important to the company maybe later. And that's where we closed our Series A round, November 2015.
Maybe you can talk about it now. Because I'm a bit older, so I might forget.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that we need to figure out, startup is not a game, It's not about vanity metrics. It's not about funding. Sometimes we see startup like a game, right? You read Tech in Asia, you read TechCrunch. What's the funding like? What's the valuation? It's like playing a game where my monster grows bigger and bigger, but really not, right? I treat the 30 people. They are real people under you, and they have families to run. They have wives to take care of as well. So it's definitely not a game. And I think the number one thing you need to think about for a startup is, what is the purpose behind your company? I can safely say the biggest moment came when we figured out our purpose 3 years in October 2015, where I brought the team to Bali, right? We have a good time there, we have a company retreat, Is the company more than finding food and telling them what to order? That's where I realized that, hey, the company's purpose is bigger than that, And that's where we did a lot of soul searching, we climbed the mountains together, Mount Bator, At the end, that got me thinking again, why did I want to find a restaurant that's like Singapore back in Silicon Valley? It's because I missed home. I want to enjoy like Singapore again. And that became the purpose of the company. Hey, finding food and what to order might not be sexy. It's not like solving death. It's not like going to space like Elon Musk. But hey, if we can help people to enjoy their lives even more, I would take that. That is a very big, became a mission statement for the company that, the whole word represents the company right now, that is enjoyment. And you will see, I really think that you will see miracles after that, because everything you do now, your team will think about, hey, is this helping people to enjoy their lives? Will this feature actually help them to find a venue easier? Or the guides that we put out, is this something that they can bring their parents to enjoy that, So it became our really like North Star, they call it in startups, the North Star. So really figure out the purpose of the company, because your investors will see that. And I believe that was the passion behind it, the heart behind it definitely convinced the investors as well that we, not just a company to invest in, but people to partner with. So yeah, that became a very pivotal moment for us at Burpple.
Yeah, I can definitely feel that passion in your voice as well, and also looking at your colleagues on the floor, they definitely feel that. So thank you for sharing that. What advice would you give to some of us out here that may feel that they're perhaps at a disadvantage if they don't have the experience pitching or working in Silicon Valley, to the success that you have, closing the seed round, the bridge, and also Series A in relatively easy and short time? What advice would you give them?
I don't think it's easy and short. I think it's laid up of 4 years of work as well. So the advice I think the first advice is, it starts with you, right? You can always pray for the best, but you can also be out there, meeting people. So for me and my co-founder, we had nothing. I had no experience. I had no big investment banking background. I was studying economics. All I had was a skill set to design and to brand things. So that was my background. My co-founder also designed the app together. And of course, Daniel is the CTO. He's the tech guy. So we have business, design, and tech that form a very good, I think they call it what? The Holy Trinity in startup, right? To start with, but we really had nothing, and what we had is a problem and a will to solve things. So at the end, always go back to what I shared, what is the purpose of your company? So I think one of the things that we put out on our wall is, our vision is to actually bring hospitality online. Hospitality doesn't just start in a restaurant itself, but I believe it's way before and way after. And we recently launched the new Burpple, and you can try it. It's really different, a lot better as well. It's one of the, I think the entire team is proud of, product that the entire team is very proud of, to actually bring hospitality online.
So I'll have 2 more questions, and then we'll open up for questions to the floor. Second last question. So what keeps you up at night now that you've launched, you've got your seed round, your Series A sorted? What keeps you up?
Speaking at startup grind. Yeah. I think what keeps me up at night is definitely not staying comfortable. Like Jeff Bezos shared, right? That impacted me is how can we be always day one, on day one? I don't want to be at a point where Burpple is always defending our turf. We have seen a lot of companies end up growing so big, they end up defending the market share. I want to be always thinking ahead. That really keeps me up at night. That what are the new product areas that we can enter to? How can we bring more enjoyment to people? How can maybe wireless payments done through the app? I'm always thinking, do not settle, and that is definitely keeping me up at night. But of course, I'm not a freak that thinks about this every single night, right? I am a normal person. I married last year, so I have a family, right? I still go on dates with my wife. So if there's one advice as well for entrepreneurs that, hey, it's not about you staying in the office till 4 a.m. Maybe there are some stretches of time that you do that. So for example, I launched my app 5 a.m. in the morning in this small orange room. I still remember very clearly, in block 71. So this was 2012, where block 71 was just block 71. Not like so many different buildings. You have Solaris now, you have Fusionopolis 2 and 3. When the MRT just started as well. So we launched our app in this small orange room, 5 a.m. in the morning, and then we went back to sleep. 9 a.m. Tech in Asia covered. So I was like, oh no, so what do we do? But going back, it's like there are times that there are the crunch times, but of course, as entrepreneurs, you are also human, right? Live a life, that is worth living. I think for me, it's definitely my family. For me, it's my parents, God. So yeah, you have the license to live a life, not just in the office itself. Yeah.
Okay, last question for me. So what's on the horizon for Burpple? Like, are there any new initiatives that you can share with this privileged group that came here?
Yeah, I think at the end, we are a company. I think a lot of questions will be also like wondering how we monetize. At the end, we are driving data to businesses, and how can they actually make use of this data to really set the right expectations and increase their revenues. So with the new Burpple, we actually beta launched our Burpple for Business program. So where we work, it's a subscription-based model where we charge restaurants for a fee to do two products. So firstly is promotions, and secondly is merchant stories. We call them Inside Scoop. And why do we even do this? It's going back to the vision of how can we bring hospitality online? Can a customer know a lot more about the restaurant before they even go down? Can a customer actually know about the promotions or the merchant stories behind them? What the chef wants you to try to set the right expectations. So these are just the first two products that we're doing for Burpple for Business, and this is just the first step. We are actually developing a lot more on that, the business product, the business side of the product of what Burpple's platform is.
Thank you very much for sharing. Thank you. And now, open to the floor for questions.
Microphones all juiced up, so.
Hi, Dixon. Thank you for sharing. I'd like to ask, you were saying that you've expanded to Kuala Lumpur, Selangor area. So could you share what kind of challenges or what kind of lessons have you picked up from the expansion? Thank you.
Right. There were definitely a lot of challenges. We have a very small team there, right? We have 3 people there. The good thing we had is because, remember, Burpple was a journaling platform, and the features are still there, right? People are using Burpple to actually post reviews, create lists around the world. So because of the close proximity, I think a lot of Singaporeans also like to go KL, to eat the banh mi and everything. I really like to go KL for work trips. That's where I eat a lot. The team brings me around. But thankfully, that's where we also got a very good pool of reviews already before we even enter. So that helped us to create this. Once we open up discovery, you can actually, right now you can discover across, I think, 8,000 different venues that's verified. They are real venues with at least, I think, 10 reviews each. And yeah, that helped us a lot. And our first team is actually growing our community team. So using the same template, that worked in Singapore, the community team is really focused on us, right, inspiring the community to share even more, share more in the right way. Right way meaning of high standards, not just sharing the good things. Also growing our tastemaker community there. And a lot of these tastemakers are also very influential on social media. So they are not influencers, so don't be confused. They also have a good following. So that's how we actually got the word out first. And then, of course, Google will take its course, right? Where once we launched there, our SEO actually naturally became better as well. But of course, we did a lot of optimization for it, I think 2 years back, and still serving us very well today.
For those of you asking questions, if you could just say your name and where you're working before the question.
Oh, hello, I am Joe. I'm with corporate advisory firm. Interested to know that since you're in food tech, do you still encourage, because the market is pretty saturated, do you still encourage people or new entrepreneur to come in into this space? Second question is, today we see Hungry Go Away partnering with Food Panda. So what do you see? I mean, that is one of our biggest competitors. What do you see moving forward? Thank you.
So your first question is whether I would encourage people to enter food tech?
Yes.
Okay. I think food itself is so general, right? Different parts of the funnel as well. So Burpple is in the discovery funnel, at the top of the funnel, and then that's where you lead to reservation or delivery, and then you have your loyalty payments, or you have your email remarketing as well. So it really depends on which funnel you are. I definitely encourage more people to be in this industry because there are more and more restaurants every single year. And based on our data, last year, actually 1,500 restaurants closed. So in Singapore alone, so there's a lot of restaurant closing. I think a lot more technology can be coming in to help business owners because talking to chefs, knowing them, building a restaurant business is really hard. I think they are the best entrepreneurs. That there's so many different variables, whether it's your hire not coming in, or like today, the refrigerator went down. So I think this industry is still in a very nascent stage in terms of adopting food technology. But I would say definitely Singapore is one of the leading markets to adopt technology in this space. And to your second question, for us, we are also in a discovery funnel. We partner with we partner with Chop and Kwandu. So instantly you can find and reserve at places in one single app across 2,000 restaurants. So making us a platform where you can actually reserve the most restaurants in Singapore. And we also partner with Deliveroo, where instantly you can find and deliver online through Burpple across 1,800 restaurants. So yeah, I think we got very good partners on board, and yeah, let's see.
Hi Dixon, my name is Celine. I work for a medical technology startup. It's very heartening, and I truly respect you for the culture you're building within your team. It's also very clear the kind of respect and trust you have for your team. I worked for Google for many years, and that's a wonderful company that treats its employees really well. But what we see and we read nowadays is, and research has shown that because of social media, productivity has gone down as employees are spending a lot more time than they should. So you see a number of companies which are not necessarily the real technology companies, the old school type of companies, including the government, that are restricting access to the internet just to make sure that productivity is not affected. So what's the kind of advice would you give to these kind of companies to have that balance where you need to trust your employees, but at the same time ensure productivity is not affected? I'm guessing you have done this nicely in your own company because you've got the trust in your employees. Because from Google, I went to work for another company that closed the internet, didn't allow us to access the internet at all.
So I think firstly, that is really a bad idea. I think people don't need a license to go on social media. They will still go on social media. They have their phones, they go to the toilet, you know, right?
Incidentally, you're right, because apparently people spend most of the time in the toilet also on the phone.
Yeah, and I think worse, you pass it off as guidelines, you know, for security reasons. So I really think it's a bad idea, you know. So for example, at Burpple, right, every single Monday we work from home. We work remotely. So we have this thing called remote working, right? I don't ever trust. I mean, I don't ever question where they are, you know, because at the end of the day, is the output, right? You know, whether you're delivering your results. And when I first shared, it's not about you staying late in the night in the office. You know, if you are either overworked or you're really your timing is really bad in planning. You know, so I have always shared with the team that I always take myself as an example, right? I believe in clear stretches of time to work. So I wake up about 5:30 to 6 every single day. I come to the office about 7:45 to 8. Sometimes I don't, you know. Sometimes I work from home. But at the end, why do I come early? Is because between 8 to 12, that's 4 hours of clear stretch of time to work, to do deep work, you know. And I'm a personal fan of Jason Fried, you know, of Basecamp. You know, I think people don't need more time to work, but just need time to do deeper work. And that's why I encourage the team, you know, to, meetings are dangerous, meetings are costly. You know, 1 hour meeting with 4 people is not just 1 hour, right? It's 4 times 1 hour. That's very costly. You know, what more 12 people and 15 people in big corporations, you know. So I think if big corporations can fine-tune the time they spend in meetings, they will save a lot more time than people spending on social media. Yeah.
Okay. Hi. So my name is Seth. Work at Uber here in Singapore. Very intrigued, as we were talking about earlier, about the not having a 5-star rating or 100% sort of rating, but rather the emphasis on just reviews, guides that contain reviews, etc. on Burpple. So yeah, just thinking about like sort of these days and like recent years, more and more entrance into not just like food rating sort of platforms, but pretty much all domains, whether just buying physical products, buying travel, finding a job, et cetera, et cetera. And it's kind of this trend towards like the quantification of self and just numbers for everything, 5-star ratings, 100% ratings, et cetera. How do you think about this? Do you have a sense of if this choice has gotten a certain demographic or deterred a certain demographic, or just if there's a different use case that people have to go to Burpple versus a site that has, you know, 4.5 stars or what have you?
Yeah, thank you, Seth. So Tony, I'll answer here. You know, he was asking me just now. So if you realize Burpple is probably the only platform out there without a rating system. You know, so there is a reason for it. Because firstly, food, I believe, with the team, is very emotional. It's not about 7.4 or 7.5, that's why I'm going here. You know, I think food decisions are so emotional, right? You know, if you all can understand. I mean, it can be just literally, like today is raining. You know, I would like to eat something like my bak kut teh, you know, Or like, I seen this food photo that, wow, is really sumptuous and delicious on social media. You feel like eating that. So food is actually very emotional, and that's part of the decision making. So I think the number one thing we do and we focus on, if you look at our app and the platform, is to how to mix utility and emotions. We have our search bar as well, like everybody does, but we have a homepage that inspires, because we serve two kinds of users. So firstly, the people have no single, not an idea at all where to go, zero idea. That's where our homepage actually inspire them. These are the collections you can look at. These are the guides that our tastemakers have created together. And secondly, is for people with some kind of context, which is actually usually for most of the people, right? Your context can be, I'm going to Bugis, I'm going to Orchard Road, or I'm craving for Japanese place. So we address that as well. But if you see our product through the entire journey, it's very emotional. Emotional meaning we focus a lot on the visuals. We focus a lot on where this place has been featured before. Meaning, is it in our Hot 100 awards? Or was it in our top 10 guide for zita or steaks? So we believe in a system about awards rather than, at least for now, because if we actually do a rating system, it will be really good. Back to your question is, why do we not do a 5-star rating? I think we have done beyond what I've shared, we also research very deeply. If you look at Facebook or Yelp, or even Google ratings, everyone has ratings, right? But why are people still coming to Burpple? I think for the three things, where to go, what to order, and lastly, validation, a real community of customers. That's what they really want, to actually push them over the edge. And if you look at ratings, the rating system in all these three platforms, most of the restaurants are actually in the 3.5 to 4.5 range. What we need is actually the above 4.5 and below 1.5. That is really helpful. Anything between the 3.5, 4.5 is unlikely that it will help you make a decision. Yeah. So we have seen that a lot on this, other different platforms. And of course, we are also getting a lot of feedback on this, like, hey, give me a rating system, man. I need to make a decision very quick. But we are serving millions of users, and I think so far we have been solving the right questions, where to go and what to order. And I think when we actually do a rating system, it should actually represent something a lot meaningful. Because firstly, and the other big thing is, in food, is very relative, right? How can you have the same rating system for, let's say, udon and ramen? Totally different things, using the same system. So we put a lot of thought into it, and we might be doing a rating system in the future.
Hello, my name is Ahmed, Regional Director from Middle East at Star Grind. Because I heard you minutes ago, you spoke about regional expansion or getting into other countries. Are there any plan to go into the Middle East as a start, for example, as a Dubai? Since there is similar model even in Dubai called Talabat, and they also work with companies like Deliveroo and other logistic companies. So if there is any strategy for going to this area, let's say in the next 5 years?
Right, next 5 years is a long time. So it might. But right now we're really focused on Singapore and Malaysia. I think a lot of startups will come and say that they want to conquer Southeast Asia and Asia. But I think for us, it's really doing it really well in Singapore and Malaysia. And I think in the next 5 years, it's a long time frame. The likely markets will be really food capitals. Whether it's Taipei or like Manila or Hong Kong. So these are the cities that we are looking in. But right now, we're really focusing on these two markets.
He just appeared behind me. Hi, Dixon. I'm Viking. I'm a video producer. So I'd like to ask, there are some platforms that lost the credibility as a discovery platform. I shall not name names.
I know.
Yeah. So how do you make sure? Yeah. So how do you make sure that you maintain the kind of trust with the users of your platform, and whether this new, I don't know how new is the Burpple for business. Will that affect you, and how do you make sure that you stay true to your, yeah?
I think the number one thing that I share with all my board and my investors and the team is we build a community. We build a company upon a community. You know, we will not let this to destroy the company. You know, we have to always know what is the value of the company, and that has been always the truth. The authenticity of the community itself. So your question is whether Burpple for business will affect it. You know, so if you come, I think our approach is very different. So for example, being on Burpple for business doesn't change the ranking. You know, because if you look at Burpple, one big difference is you search in any category, the result will change probably every single day based on user activity. You know, that's what we call the trending score. You know, and if the question is whether people can pay to be on number one, that is absolutely no, because that has been how that's how we have been building the company. You know, it's really through trust and from the community itself. You know, so we also thought through a lot about promotions and merchant stories called Inside Scoop. That promotions, I think it's quite different when you say these are the top 20 places to go, and then these are the promotions that is available here, versus say these are 20 places with great promotions, you should go to here. You know, it's always part of the funnel that you find the place that you like, and then the promotions will definitely help you to push you over the edge to make that decision. You know, not just, I think it's beyond score as well. That will actually help people to drive visits. And of course, this is our first entry into Burpple for Business. So far, we're about 55 merchants on it. You know, and the first 55, we really focus on the top restaurants that are popular on Burpple. You know, because I think one thing that irks me a lot is, why are you showing me an ad that nobody wants to go to? You know, I think firstly is, you know, the best way to help restaurants is actually helping restaurants that are popular with our users, or more likely, for our users to more likely to visit them. You know, I think that is how we start. Yeah.
Be time for one or two more questions.
Given the fact that you already, introduce Bev from Wixel Software Solutions. Given the fact that you're already doing a lot of image recognition and you are strongly focused on the emotional side of the food choices, are you doing anything with AI to exploit that to serve up better results?
I think AI is, it depends what you mean by AI. You know, I think AI is a very fancy word. You know, AI has been around since probably Google started, where you key in a search box and you get results. That's AI, right? So I think we're definitely moving towards this direction. You know, in terms of how can we, I think based on where you are going, you know, your location, the theme you're looking for, you know, and based on user activity, how can we always serve more and more relevant recommendations? And this is definitely something that we are working on right now. Yeah.
So nothing like Instagram that's already using emotions tied to the imagery?
Emotions meaning?
So they're tying user emotions to the kind of images, they're analyzing the imagery that the users are using.
Right, not for us right now, yeah. But recently we piloted this thing called collections. So if you look at Burpple today, besides guides, we have this thing called collections, where literally is a curation of places in a theme. So it can be like great places to eat after work, or like weekend treats. So one thing we have tested out is by weather. So can we recommend places based on weather? So we have rainy day comforts. We have hot day with everything inside is ice cream. So we are really testing all this kind of different kind of results. And of course, we are working towards automation and making sure that these places that we recommend is really relevant to you, because it makes no use if I recommend something that's really far from you. So that's where the AI portion is coming in. Yeah.
So I think this is where we start dancing. So thank you so much. I think that was a really great session, sharing with us and being so open about the product, the company, culture, etc. I hope everyone also had some good time here learning from Dixon and also with each other. I think Dixon will hang around for a bit and his team, so this is the time to speak to his team. Wink, wink. Thank you once again to Justco. Forgot to mention Bolton Remote, Patrick there, Sean, and from the team at Gorilla Space as well. Thank you so much, and Startup Grind, thank you, and see you at the next one.